Welcome back to History Help with JD Queentry. This is the final chapter in our Chronicles of Empire mini-series, the epic journey through the rise, glory, and fall of the Roman Empire. Today, we uncover the end of an age, the slow collapse of Rome, the chaos that followed, and the powerful legacy it left behind. From invasions and civil wars to Christian emperors and Byzantine survival, the fall of Rome was more than a downfall. It was a transformation. If you've enjoyed this series, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. Your support helps us keep making history accessible and exciting for everyone. The fall and legacy of Rome, from imperial collapse to eternal influence. At its height, the Roman Empire spanned 3 continents, commanded unmatched military power, and projected cultural dominance that reshaped the ancient world. But no empire lasts forever. Over the course of centuries, the Roman Empire, once the unstoppable engine of civilization, was pulled apart by internal rot, foreign invasions, and a shifting identity that left even its leaders uncertain of its direction. Yet the fall of Rome was not the end of its story. In collapse, it seeded the foundations of medieval Europe, the Byzantine Empire, and the very institutions and ideas that still define Western civilization. This is the story not just of how Rome fell, but how it lived on. The decline of the Roman Empire was not marked by a single moment of destruction, but by a slow unraveling. One of the earliest and most severe warning signs came during the 3rd century CE, in what historians call the crisis of the 3rd century. Between 235 and 284 CE, Rome endured a period of extreme instability. Emperors were rapidly overthrown or assassinated, civil wars erupted with alarming frequency, and the empire fractured under pressure. In a span of just 50 years, over 24 emperors rose and fell, many spending more time on the battlefield than governing. Provinces broke away to form their own short-lived empires, such as the Gallic Empire in the west and the Palmyrene Empire in the east. Meanwhile, external threats multiplied. Germanic tribes breached Rome's borders, and a resurgent Sassanid empire struck from the east. Economic collapse followed, driven by inflation, disruption of trade, and over-reliance on slave labor. In response, Emperor Diocletian implemented sweeping reforms to stabilize the empire. He divided it into a western and eastern half, appointing co-rulers and creating a more bureaucratic and militarized system of governance. While his efforts brought temporary stability, they also institutionalized the division that would later become permanent. The crisis of the 3rd century had exposed Rome's greatest weakness. Its size and complexity were no longer manageable under a single, centralized system. One of the most profound transformations of the late Roman Empire came not from a foreign enemy or military campaign, but from within. In the early 4th century, Emperor Constantine emerged as a decisive leader who reunified the empire and changed its spiritual course forever. After securing his power at the Battle of the Milvian Bridge in 312 CE, Constantine attributed his victory to the Christian God and began a dramatic shift in religious policy. In 313 CE, he issued the Edict of Milan, granting legal status to Christianity and ending centuries of persecution. Over the next decades, Christianity evolved from a persecuted sect to the favored religion of the empire. In 330 CE, Constantine moved the capital to Byzantium, renamed Constantinople, laying the foundation for the Eastern Roman Empire, later known as the Byzantine Empire. This decision marked more than a geographic shift. It represented a cultural pivot from the traditional pagan Latin West to a more Hellenized Christian East. The rise of Christianity dramatically reshaped Roman institutions. Pagan temples were replaced with churches, bishops gained political influence, and Christian doctrine became intertwined with imperial law. While this helped unify a fractured society under a single religious identity, it also alienated traditional elites and accelerated the empire's ideological transformation. The Rome of Caesar and Cicero was becoming a memory. By the 5th century, Rome's external pressures intensified beyond what its weakened military and divided government could manage. Germanic tribes, long pushed to the fringes of the empire, now surged inward, fleeing the advance of the Huns and seeking new homelands within Roman territory. In 376 CE, the Visigoths crossed the Danube and were admitted into the empire, but mistreatment by Roman officials led to rebellion. In 378 CE, they dealt a crushing blow at the Battle of Adrianople, killing Emperor Valens and decimating the Roman field army. It was a signal that Rome's borders were no longer secure. The most dramatic shock came in 410 CE, when Alaric and his Visigothic forces sacked the city of Rome. For the first time in 800 years, the Eternal City had fallen to a foreign army. The psychological damage was enormous. Romans could no longer believe in their invincibility. As the Western Roman Empire crumbled, various barbarian groups carved out their own kingdoms. The Vandals in North Africa, the Ostrogoths in Italy, and the Franks in Gaul. In 476 CE, the last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was deposed by the Germanic general Odoacer. While the Eastern Roman Empire would continue for nearly 1,000 more years, the Western Roman Empire was no more. The ancient world had given way to the medieval. Though the Western Empire had fallen, the East survived. From its capital at Constantinople, the Eastern Roman, or Byzantine, Empire preserved Roman law, governance, and identity for centuries. Under Emperor Justinian I in the 6th century, the Byzantines sought to reclaim lost Roman territory. His armies reconquered parts of Italy, North Africa, and Spain. More enduringly, Justinian compiled and codified centuries of Roman law into the Corpus Juris Civilis, a legal foundation that would influence European systems well into the modern era. Byzantine culture fused Roman administration with Greek language and Christian theology. Its religious art, elaborate court rituals, and theological debates would shape the Eastern Orthodox Church and the cultural heritage of Eastern Europe and Russia. Despite periods of resurgence, the Byzantines faced constant threats from Persians, Arabs, Turks, and Crusaders. In 1453, Constantinople finally fell to the Ottoman Turks, marking the end of the last remnant of the Roman Empire. Yet by then, the Byzantine legacy had already left its mark on the world. Although the Roman state in the West had vanished, the idea of Rome proved more enduring than any emperor. Throughout the Middle Ages, rulers and thinkers sought to claim continuity with the Roman past. In 800 CE, Charlemagne was crowned Emperor of the Romans by the Pope, reviving the title in a new Frankish Christian context. This would evolve into the Holy Roman Empire, a political entity that, despite its contradictions, claimed legitimacy through Roman heritage. Latin remained the language of scholarship, law, and religion. Roman roads, aqueducts, and ruins dotted the European landscape as physical reminders of an advanced past. The Catholic Church, centered in Rome, styled itself as a spiritual heir to the empire, maintaining Roman administrative models and hierarchical authority. To medieval Europeans, Rome was not just a memory, it was a standard. Its laws, architecture, and stories became the benchmarks of civilization. Even as new kingdoms rose, they did so in Rome's shadow. In the Renaissance, humanists rediscovered classical texts, art, and architecture, reigniting admiration for Roman achievements. Thinkers like Petrarch and Machiavelli saw Rome as a model of civic virtue, political ambition, and cultural brilliance. Artists drew on Roman styles, and architects revived the column, dome, and arch. The Enlightenment and early modern republics, especially in the United States and France, consciously borrowed Roman ideals. The very word Senate, used in the U.S. government, comes from the Roman Senatus. The Roman Republic, with its checks on power, was a guiding inspiration for democratic revolutions that rejected monarchy and sought governance by the people. Even authoritarian rulers drew on Rome. Mussolini's fascist Italy wrapped itself in Roman imagery, seeing in the empire a model of strength and unity. Rome's legacy proved versatile, used to support democracy, dictatorship, religion, and secularism. The Roman Empire did not fall in a single night. nor did its influence end when emperors ceased to rule. It transformed, endured, and resurfaced in countless forms across centuries. From the ashes of the Western Empire rose the medieval world. From the Byzantine East came preserved knowledge and legal traditions. And from Rome's example, modern societies drew inspiration for architecture, politics, and culture. Rome's power lay not only in its armies or monuments, but in its ability to be reborn again and again in the imagination of those who came after. Though the empire is gone, its legacy remains eternal. Thanks for joining us for the fall and legacy of Rome, and for following our Chronicles of Empire journey from its founding to its fall. If you've enjoyed this series, show your support by giving this video a thumbs up, subscribing to History Help with JD Queentry, and turning on notifications so you never miss a new episode. Share this with your fellow history lovers, students, or anyone curious about the past. And remember, empires rise, empires fall, but history always lives on.